Hello everyone and welcome to today's Thought for the Day. Along with several other people, I've been reading through the Bible in a year, produced by Nicky Gumbel this year. And I wanted to share a few thoughts today from what I've been reading today. If you've not already been doing the Bible in the year, it's not too late to start. Or if you've got a little bit behind, there's nothing wrong with skipping a bit and just rejoining where we are just now. It's actually a good time to do that because we're just changing over into a couple of new books. So yes, give it a go or get back into it. There's certainly lots to learn, and you can spend a good time with God reading the Bible. Today's readings were from Psalm 84, and I just want to read a little bit of that just now. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may have her young. A place near your altar, O Lord Almighty, my King and my God. Many of us may be missing meeting together in our church building, and it may be that soon we're able to start doing that again. But as our banner outside the church says, the church is not a building. God lives in his people. His people are his temple, his church. And it's being with each other that we should be looking forward to, more than being in a building. And more than that, we should be yearning, looking forward to spending time with God together. But the verse that really stuck out to me was verse 3. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself. David may have been looking at the tabernacle where God was, where God dwelt, and there might have been a sparrow and a swallow living there, and that may be what gave him that line to the psalm. But it made me think that the church isn't a place for big, strong, self-confident people. The church is really a place for people who are humble, who are weak, who are meek, who know that we need God. And let's just hope and pray that Labour Baptist is a church where people who feel weak, who feel meek, who feel small, can come and find God and spend time with him. The Old Testament reading today was from 2 Kings. I don't know about you, but I've been finding it quite hard reading through Kings. It gets a bit depressing reading about the way the kings disobeyed God and went after other gods. But there are a few bright lights there, and one of them is the story of Josiah, which I was reading about today. Josiah became king when he was 8, which must have been very difficult for him. When he was in his 20s, I think, the temple was being repaired at his command, and they came across the Book of the Law, which would be the first 5 books of our Old Testament. Someone brought that to Josiah the king, and he had it read to him. When he heard what was in that Book of the Law, he was very distressed. He tore his clothes, and he realised how angry God would be at him and the people, because they'd been going after other gods. They'd been worshipping other gods. They'd even set up idols within the temple, and they'd done some absolutely horrible, disgusting things. he realised how bad things had got, and he feared God. But he didn't just leave it at there. He spent a whole chapter of 2 Kings removing all the idols from Judah. We read about all the idols and how he got rid of them. But then we read an interesting thing. We read in 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 25. Neither before nor after Josiah was there a king like him, who turned to the Lord as he did, with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his strength, in accordance with all the law of Moses. And you read that and you think, well, he's done a good job. Maybe God will forgive them. God will turn his anger from them. But then we read the next verse. 2 Kings 23:26. Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn away from the heat of his fierce anger, which burned against Judah because of all that Manasseh had done to provoke him to anger. And then we read what God is going to do to Judah because of their disobedience. So Josiah had got rid of all these idols. He'd served God with his heart, with all his soul and with all his strength, just as God had asked him to do. But that wasn't enough to make God turn his anger away. And that just shows us that trying hard, our good efforts, isn't enough to take away our sin. I can think back to times as a teenager before I put my trust in Christ, of times when I would turn over a new leaf and try really hard to be good, but it always ended in failure, and it was never enough to please God, because we know that we need to be perfectly pure, perfectly clean, perfectly righteous to please God, and by ourselves we can't get to that standard. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we have books like this in the Bible, to show us that by our own efforts we can't meet God's standard. Which is why it's good that there are also books like Romans in the Bible, which is the other reading for today. I'm just going to read 2 verses from Romans chapter 1, which were in our reading for today. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. For in the gospel a righteousness from God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. Those verses are explaining that if we trust in God, he will make us righteous because of what Jesus did on the cross. If we trust in him, if we have faith in him, he will make us righteous. Yes, he wants us to turn away from idols as well, and that is part of the turning towards God, but it's only through faith that we can be made righteous, to be made clean, to be made pure, so we can have that relationship with God and be forgiven. And that is great news. And I will leave you to have a think about that just now, how our own efforts, no matter how hard we try, we can't ultimately please God, but only through trusting in him, through trusting in Christ and asking him to make us pure and clean, can we get that righteousness from God. Thanks for listening. Bye.